The storm came without warning. Ethan Cole's ship rattled as lightning tore across the sky, a violent purple glow painting the cockpit glass. Warning lights flashed red and yellow. Alarms screamed in his ears. He tried to steady the controls, but the turbulence was too strong. The ship was losing altitude fast. Come on, stay with me, he muttered, gripping the joystick. The planet below looked almost peaceful. Thick green forests wrapped around glowing blue rivers. But peace was an illusion. His scanner warned of magnetic interference. Something down there didn't want visitors. Then came the final jolt. The right engine burst in flames. The ship spiraled down like a dying bird and slammed into the forest canopy with a deafening crash. Everything went white. When Ethan opened his eyes, silence greeted him. The smell of smoke and metal filled the air. His head throbbed. Sparks danced from the broken dashboard. Somehow he was still alive. The emergency shield had deployed at the last second. He pushed open the cracked hatch and stepped out. The ground beneath him was strange, soft, glowing faintly under the moonlight. The air was rich with the scent of flowers, but heavy, almost intoxicating. Alien stars twinkled above him, larger and brighter than any he had seen before. His communicator was dead. The emergency beacon blinked weakly, unable to pierce the strange energy field surrounding the planet. He sighed. Great, alone again. Then, he heard it. A whisper, soft at first like wind through reeds, then clearer, feminine voices. Many of them. Ethan froze. He wasn't alone. From the trees, shapes began to move, tall, graceful figures draped in dark robes. Their skin shimmered like liquid silver. Their hair glowed faintly in the darkness. Their eyes, huge, luminous, and full of strange hunger, locked on him. One stepped forward. She was taller than the rest, wearing a crown of bone and crystal. Her presence was commanding, her beauty both divine and terrifying. She spoke a word Ethan didn't understand, but her tone made his heart pound. He raised his hand slowly. I'm not here to hurt you. My ship crashed. I just need help. The leader tilted her head. Her eyes widened slightly as if in disbelief. She whispered something to the others. Murmurs spread through the group like ripples on water. Ethan could hear the word male repeated several times. The leader stepped closer, close enough for him to see the silver veins running under her skin. She looked at him as if she was seeing a ghost. A man, she breathed in a trembling voice. A real one. Before Ethan could reply, the others surrounded him. Hands touched his arms, his hair, his face, gentle at first, then almost desperate. Their touch felt warm, alive, charged with energy. Their eyes glowed brighter, their breathing faster. Ethan pulled back uneasily. Please, stop. The leader raised her hand and the others froze instantly. She studied him for a long moment, then said something to her people. The tone was sharp, commanding. The women backed away, but their eyes still burned with emotion. Longing, fear, hunger. Who are you people? Ethan asked carefully. The leader took a slow breath. We are the Canary, the daughters of the lost sun, and you should not exist. Her words chilled him. What do you mean? She turned her gaze toward the sky. Our world has not seen a man for 105 years. Ethan blinked. That's impossible. She looked at him again, eyes sad yet fierce. Impossible. And yet you stand before us. The last time a male walked these lands, the balance broke. Wars followed. The skies burned. And when the fires ended, all men were gone. The tribe murmured again, fear mixing with awe. One of them whispered, the prophecy. The return. The leader's expression hardened. Take him. What? Wait. Ethan tried to resist, but they moved fast. Ropes of glowing fiber wrapped around his wrists. Even though they looked soft, they held him like steel. Please. I don't even know where I am. He shouted. The leader stepped close, her voice low and cold. You have stepped into a world that forgot your kind, and some may not welcome your return. The women led him through the glowing forest. Strange plants brushed against his arms, whispering faint sounds. He saw glowing ponds, ancient statues of men and women locked in embrace, half buried, half forgotten. They reached a massive stone gate covered in runes that pulsed with light as they approached. The air grew colder, heavier. The gate opened with a deep rumble, revealing a city carved into cliffs alive with glowing blue fires and silent watchers. Hundreds of alien women looked down from balconies, eyes wide, whispering to one another. Ethan's heart raced. It felt like walking into the past. or into a dream he didn't belong in. They brought him to a high platform overlooking the city. The leader turned to face the crowd. Her voice echoed across the stone walls. "Behold, the sky has sent us what we lost. After 105 years, a man walks among us again." The crowd erupted in sound, cries, gasps, even laughter. Some fell to their knees. Others shouted in anger. The air trembled with chaos. Ethan stood there, bound and exhausted, staring at the sea of glowing eyes fixed on him. He didn't know if he had just been saved or doomed. The leader turned back to him, her expression unreadable. She leaned close and whispered in his ear, her breath cold as ice. "You are either our salvation or our meal." The drums began to beat. The gates closed behind him, and Ethan realized he had landed on a world where being human was the most dangerous thing of all. Cold blue light filled the chamber where Ethan was held. The walls pulsed like living stone, humming with energy. He sat on a circular platform made of crystal, bound by glowing ropes that floated an inch above his skin. Every few seconds he could hear faint whispers outside, soft, musical, almost hypnotic. He tried speaking into his broken communicator again. Nothing but static. Hours passed, or maybe it was only minutes. The alien moon outside changed color from silver to crimson, bathing everything in a blood-red glow. Then the heavy door opened with a hiss. 3 alien women entered, their robes shimmering like mist. They carried bowls of glowing liquid that smelled sweet, almost like honey and smoke mixed together. Behind them came the tall leader, Vera. Her crown of bone reflected the red light, making her look both queenly and dangerous. Ethan stood up as much as the ropes allowed. "Please, I don't want trouble. I just need to fix my ship and leave." Vera's golden eyes studied him. "You think you can leave?" she said softly. "No one leaves this world. Not anymore." She gestured, and one of the women poured the glowing liquid into a carved stone cup. Farah lifted it and walked closer, every movement slow, graceful, deliberate. "You are not a prisoner, human," she said. "You are a miracle," Ethan frowned. "A miracle?" "Yes," she whispered. "For 105 years, our tribe has lived without men. Our bloodline thinned. Our children grew weak. The stars themselves turned their backs. And now suddenly a man falls from the sky, breathing, alive." Her voice trembled, part wonder, part fear. Ethan didn't like the way her people stared at him. Their eyes were full of hunger, like they wanted to taste his existence. One of the younger women moved closer, curious. Her silver skin shimmered faintly, her hair glowing blue at the edges. She reached out as if drawn by instinct and touched Ethan's cheek. In that instant, a shock ran through them both. Ethan gasped. It felt like his strength was being drained through her fingertips. The woman moaned softly, her eyes rolling back, then stepped away, breathing fast. "What was that?" Ethan shouted, panting. "What did she do?" Farah's gaze darkened. "You felt it, didn't you? The pull, the hunger of our kind. We feed not on flesh, but on the energy of life itself. It is how we survive. But it has been long since we felt such power." Ethan's heart thudded. "You're saying you feed on people?" "Not people," Farah corrected coldly. "On what is given freely. We never harm our own, but you are not one of us. You are different. You are pure." The word pure sounded like a threat. Before she could say more, a voice came from the doorway. A younger alien, slender, nervous Tsog stepped inside. Her name, as Ethan would later learn, was Sira. She bowed quickly. "Hi, Mother, forgive me. The council demands his presence." "The moons are aligned," Farah nodded slowly. "Then it begins tonight." Ethan didn't like the sound of that. "Begins what?" Sira looked at him, her eyes full of silent warning. "The rite of renewal." 2 guards entered and unbound him from the glowing ropes, only to replace them with metallic cuffs that wrapped around his wrists and ankles. They guided him through long corridors filled with carved murals, images of men and women together, of birth, of light, then slowly fading into darkness, war, and death. As they walked, Sira leaned closer and whispered, barely audible, "Do not fight them. They believe you are the key to life. But if the ritual starts, you will die." Ethan glanced at her, shocked. "Then help me escape," her face tensed. "If they catch me helping you, I'll be erased." They don't kill, they drain. They emerged into a massive underground hall. Hundreds of alien women gathered in silence, forming a circle around a glowing pool of blue fire. The sound of drums began, slow, deep, echoing like heartbeats. Vara stepped onto a stone platform at the center. Her robe shimmered with symbols that pulsed like veins of light. She turned toward the crowd. Sisters of Canary, for 105 years our wombs have been empty, our skies silent. But tonight the balance may return. The crowd answered with a single chilling chant. Renewal, renewal, renewal. Ethan's pulse raced. The sound grew louder, filling the hall like thunder. Vara raised her hands. Bring the offering. The guards pushed Ethan forward. He stumbled near the glowing pool, its surface rippling as if alive. Blue flames reached upward, licking at his skin, warm but not burning. Vara stepped closer, her eyes glowing brighter than ever. Do not fear. Through you we may live again. Ethan backed away. No, listen. There has to be another way. The crowd didn't move. The chant grew feverish. The air shimmered with strange energy, vibrating deep in his bones. Vara extended her hand toward his chest. When her fingers touched him, light burst outward, a blinding flare of gold and blue. Ethan screamed as his energy surged out of him like a river unleashed. Vara's face twisted, half ecstasy, half pain. The crowd fell to their knees, moaning, drinking in the power radiating from him. Then through the chaos, Sira ran forward, shouting, Stop! You'll kill him! She shoved Vara away. The ritual light shattered into pieces like glass. The drum stopped. Silence fell. Vara stood there trembling, her eyes wide in shock. Ethan collapsed to the ground, barely breathing. Sira knelt beside him, whispering frantically, You have to run. They won't stop next time. Vara looked down at the broken ritual circle. Her voice was cold and uncertain. The prophecy spoke of his arrival, not his survival. And in the echoing chamber of the Canary, Ethan Cole realized he wasn't a guest of honor. He was the sacrifice. The air inside the temple was alive. It shimmered, humming with power like 1,000 whispers trapped between the walls. Ethan lay weak on the cold crystal floor, his chest still burning from the ritual that had almost killed him. The blue marks on his skin pulsed faintly, glowing in rhythm with his heartbeat. He tried to stand, but his legs felt like stone. Each breath came with pain. When he looked up, he saw the vast chamber around him, circular, enormous, carved into black rock that seemed to breathe light. Symbols spiraled across the walls, glowing with ancient energy. In the center stood the altar, a massive platform surrounded by floating stones that turned slowly, each radiating a faint hum. Blue liquid ran through grooves in the floor, forming rivers of light that converged beneath him. And around the altar stood the Canary women. Hundreds of them, silent, watching. Vara stood before them, her robes torn slightly from the earlier struggle, her eyes glowing gold like fire trapped in glass. The ritual failed. One of the elders hissed. He must be consumed fully, not interrupted. Vara's voice was steady, but her eyes betrayed doubt. No, it wasn't time. The prophecy said the offering must choose the path willingly. Prophecy? Another woman spat. We are dying, Vara. Our people fade while you waste power on faith. Ethan could barely understand their words, but their tone said everything. Anger, desperation, hunger. Sira stepped between them, trembling but defiant. If you drain him, there will be nothing left to save. He's the only one who can restore balance. I saw it in the archives. The male energy isn't just food. It's the key. Vara turned sharply. You speak of things you don't understand, child. I understand enough, Sira said, her voice cracking but brave. You're afraid. You don't want the truth. You want control. Gasps echoed through the temple. No one had ever spoken to Vara like that. Vara's face hardened, but there was something human in her eyes. Regret, maybe even guilt. She turned to Ethan. You were not meant to see this place. The Temple of Renewal is sacred. It was built when our world still knew balance, when men and women shared life equally. Now it is a tomb of memories. Ethan coughed weakly, his voice rough. Then why keep it alive? Vara looked at him long and silent. Because we forgot how to live without pain. The temple lights dimmed. The blue rivers brightened. The floating stones began to spin faster. Ethan's body started glowing again, against his will. He panicked. No, stop it, whatever this is, stop. Vara raised her hand, stopping the process instantly. The crowd murmured, confused. Take him below, Vara ordered. Let the temple decide his fate. The ground beneath Ethan's feet trembled. The floor split open, revealing a spiral staircase glowing white. Guards grabbed his arms, forcing him downward. Sierra followed, ignoring Vera's warning glare. They descended into the lower chamber, colder, quieter, older. There were no lights here, only the soft glow from Ethan's skin. Strange murals lined the walls, not of rituals or war, but of families. Men and women holding children. Smiles carved in stone. Sierra ran her fingers along one of the carvings. Before the Great Silence, before the last war, this is how they lived. Together. Ethan touched one of the murals too. The stone felt warm. What happened to your men? Sierra's voice broke. They didn't die. They were taken. The old rulers feared their strength. They made a sickness and a curse that only affected males. It spread faster than fire. The world fell quiet. Ethan's stomach twisted. You mean, this was done on purpose? She nodded slowly. Vara's bloodline was part of the council that ordered it. That's why she carries the guilt. She believes the prophecy was punishment, that the first male to return will bring either rebirth or destruction. Before Ethan could speak, the chamber shook violently. Dust fell from the ceiling. A deep roar echoed through the halls. Sierra grabbed his arm. They've reactivated the upper altar. They're going to finish the ritual without you. They ran down another tunnel deeper into the earth. The air grew hot and heavy. Then when lighter, a massive underground vault opened before them. It wasn't a temple. It was a laboratory, ancient but still alive. Machines hummed faintly, their surfaces covered in glowing symbols and alien text. Tubes of light connected strange crystalline pods, each holding the faint image of humanoid figures. Male figures. Ethan's breath caught. Are those? Yes, Sierra whispered. The last of the Canary males, preserved, hidden. Vara never told anyone. He stepped closer to one of the pods. The figure inside looked peaceful, sleeping, like time itself had forgotten him. Sierra activated a control panel. Holographic symbols floated in the air, spinning around her fingers. These were sealed 105 years ago. But their DNA, it's still alive. You could help bring them back. Ethan stared in awe, but before he could answer, a shadow moved behind them. Vera, her golden eyes blazed in the darkness. You shouldn't have come here, she said quietly. Sierra stepped in front of Ethan. We found the truth, Vara. You lied to them, to all of us. Vara's voice trembled. No, I protected them. The truth can destroy what little peace we have left. Ethan raised his voice. Peace built on death isn't peace. For a moment no one spoke. The only sound was the steady hum of the machines. Then Vara's gaze softened. You think you can save us, human? You don't understand this world. You were never meant to be here. Ethan looked her in the eyes. Maybe not. But maybe that's exactly why I can help. The air between them shimmered, and a storm of emotion, fear, and faint hope. Above them, the temple roared. The ritual had begun again. But this time it wasn't waiting for permission. The walls glowed red. The pods around them started to crack open. Vera turned toward the light. The temple has chosen its path. Sierra grabbed Ethan's arm. Then we choose ours. And together they ran, deeper into the forbidden heart of the Canary world, where ancient secrets waited to wake. The tunnel stretched for miles beneath the glowing temple. Ethan's breath came heavy as he ran, following the faint light from Sierra's hands. The deeper they went, the older the world around them became. The walls turning from polished stone to rough rock, then to metal. Strange cables pulsed faintly inside the walls, still alive after a century of silence. Where are we going? Ethan asked, panting. Sierra glanced back, her silver hair glowing faintly in the dark. To the heart of the old world, the place the elders forbid us to speak of. Behind them, the sound of pursuit echoed, the rhythmic steps of the Canary guards and the distant chanting from above. Vara's voice carried faintly through the tunnels, full of power and sorrow. Do not run from destiny, human. The temple calls for balance. Sierra's grip tightened around Ethan's wrist. She won't stop. Not until you're part of the ritual or dead. They turned a corner and entered a massive chamber unlike anything Ethan had seen before. The air was thick with a low hum, like the heartbeat of a sleeping giant. In the center of the room stood a circular platform made of transparent crystal, surrounded by machines older than humanity itself. Floating holograms filled the space, displaying alien symbols and glowing images of stars. genetic structures and faces. Male faces. Ethan stepped closer, eyes wide. Are these your ancestors? Sierra nodded slowly. The lost males. The first fathers of Canary. She walked toward the platform, brushing dust off a console. Her fingers glided over the symbols with familiarity. My mother was a scientist before the silence. She found these records hidden deep below the temple. She said this place holds the truth of what happened 105 years ago. The console flickered to life. A holographic figure appeared. An elder Canary male, tall and regal, his eyes tired but kind. His voice filled the chamber, soft but trembling with fear. To whoever finds this, the truth must be known. We were not destroyed by plague, as the council told the people. We were erased. Ethan froze. The words echoed in his mind. The hologram continued. The council feared imbalance. They believed men carried chaos and desire, anger, rebellion. So they unleashed the sorrow virus coded to our genes. Within days we began to vanish. Our lovers begged for mercy, but the council sealed the truth beneath the earth. They built the temple of renewal to hide their sin. The message ended. Silence fell heavy. Sierra turned away, her face pale. My people, we killed our own fathers. Ethan clenched his fists. They lied to you. Lied for generations. You've been living in fear of your own history. She nodded slowly. Vara knows. That's why she guards the temple so fiercely. She believes the curse will return if the truth spreads. Ethan stepped closer to the pods lined along the walls. Each held a sleeping figure, motionless, perfectly preserved. Can any of them be revived? Sierra hesitated. Maybe, but we'd need a living link to restart the sequence. A compatible life force. Someone with enough energy to activate the ancient system. Ethan looked at his own glowing hands. The marks from the ritual still pulsed faintly beneath his skin. Like me. Before Sierra could stop him, Ethan placed his hand on the control panel. The light surged instantly, racing through the machines. The floor trembled. Sierra shouted, Ethan, stop! It could kill you. But he didn't move. The power coursed through him like lightning, painful, burning, but alive. The pods began to glow brighter, one by one. Above them, the walls cracked open as energy spirals rose toward the surface, piercing through rock and stone. The entire temple above began to tremble. Then a voice echoed from the shadows. You fool! Vera stepped into the chamber, her eyes glowing with fury and grief. Her robes fluttered in the charged air. You think you can change fate with mortal hands? Ethan staggered, still touching the console. You've been protecting a lie. These men didn't die, they were murdered by fear. Your people deserve to know the truth. Vara's voice broke. Truth will destroy us. You don't understand, human. We are not ready to face what we've done. Sierra stood between them. Then it's time we learned. For a long moment, Vera said nothing. Then her expression softened, pain flashing in her golden eyes. She raised her hand, and the guards behind her lowered their weapons. Do you think saving Ghost will bring peace? She asked softly. Ethan's voice was quiet, steady. No, but it might bring forgiveness. The humming grew louder. One of the pods cracked open. A faint gasp echoed through the chamber. A man's voice, weak but alive. Sierra covered her mouth, tears in her eyes. It worked. Vara turned slowly, staring at the awakening figure. Her face trembled, torn between horror and awe. For the first time in more than a century, a Canary male opened his eyes. The machines roared to life. Light filled the chamber. The pods began opening one after another, filling the air with the sound of returning life. Vara fell to her knees. By the stars. What have we done? Ethan knelt beside her, exhausted but smiling faintly. You haven't destroyed your world, Vara. You've just given it another chance. But even as the light bathed them, a deep rumble shook the ground. Alarms blared through the ancient system. Sierra's face turned pale. The temple is reacting to the revival. It's going to collapse. Vara stood, her expression torn between fear and hope. Then we run. But not from the truth this time. And as the chamber began to fall apart, Ethan, Sierra, and Vara sprinted toward the tunnels, the light of rebirth chasing them through the darkness, and behind them, the first cries of a world waking after a century of silence. The world was breaking. The tunnels shook like living veins beneath the collapsing temple. The light from the awakening pods chased Ethan, Sierra, and Vara as they ran, flashes of blue and gold reflecting on the wet stone walls. Above them, Explosions of light tore through the ceiling. The ancient systems of the Canary were waking, screaming, alive for the first time in a century. Sira shouted over the rumble, "We have to reach the upper gate before it seals." Ethan stumbled, clutching his ribs. What about the others? The men in the pods? Vara turned sharply, her golden eyes glowing like fire in the chaos. They will live if we live. The temple's heart must stabilize first. They burst into a chamber filled with shattered statues, long-forgotten rulers of the Canary. Dust swirled like ghosts. For a moment, the noise faded, replaced by silence heavy with memory. Ethan stopped to catch his breath. "Why did you hide them, Vara? Why not tell your people the truth?" Vara looked at the fallen statues, faces carved with pride and fear. "Because truth kills faster than lies. The Canary survived by forgetting. I made them forget." Sira stepped forward, her voice trembling with anger. "You made us hungry. You made us believe we were cursed to live without men. You made us monsters." Vara's jaw tightened. Better monsters than extinct. The air cracked. One of the upper tunnels exploded as molten energy burst through. Ethan grabbed Sira and ducked behind a pillar. Vara shielded them with her arm, her skin glowing brighter than before. When the light faded, Ethan looked at her in shock. "You protected us." Vara didn't meet his eyes. Even monsters remember mercy. For a few seconds, all three stood in silence, panting, dust-covered, the world collapsing around them. Then the sound came. Footsteps. Many. From the shadows emerged a crowd of Canary soldiers, their armor made of bone and light, their eyes burning with rage. At their front stood the High Counselor, draped in silver chains. "High Mother Vara," she hissed, "you broke the sacred code. You awakened the Forbidden Ones." Vara straightened, her voice steady. "The Forbidden Ones are our fathers, our brothers. They deserve life." The counselor raised her weapon, a spear glowing with pure white energy. "And what of balance? What of the old prophecy? The moment a male breathes again, the skies will burn." Sira stepped between them. "Then let them burn if it means we stop living in lies." The guards tensed, ready to strike. Ethan instinctively moved closer to Sira, his mind racing for a plan. But Vara raised her hand. The guards froze instantly. Her voice echoed through the broken hall, filled with command. "Stand down." The soldiers hesitated. The counselor's face twisted. "You've lost your way, Vara." "No," Vara said softly. "I've finally found it." She looked at Ethan, the strange human who had fallen from the sky and shattered her faith. "I spent a century keeping my people alive by fear. You made me remember what hope feels like. You made me remember what love once meant to our kind." Ethan met her gaze. "Then let's finish what we started." But the temple had other plans. The floor split beneath them as glowing veins of energy erupted. Sira screamed as she slipped, and Ethan grabbed her hand just in time. Vara caught them both with a pull of her telekinetic force, her eyes blazing. "Go!" Vara shouted over the quake. "The path to the surface is through the east tunnel." "What about you?" Ethan yelled back. "I'll hold the temple together long enough for you to escape." "No!" Sira cried. "You'll die!" Vara smiled faintly, tired, gentle. "Then let it be my last command as High Mother." She turned toward the counselor, who was preparing to strike again. "If you wish to die for lies, then strike me now." The counselor hesitated, then lunged. Vara moved like lightning. She redirected the energy spear into the ground. The resulting blast sent both of them flying apart. The ceiling began to collapse entirely now. Ethan pulled Sira through the tunnel as rocks rained down. The glow behind them dimmed, then flashed one final time, blinding and beautiful. When they finally reached the surface, dawn was breaking. The air smelled of smoke and flowers. The sky shimmered with pink and silver light, the twin suns rising over a world reborn. Ethan looked back toward the temple's mountain. It was half gone, buried under debris, but faint blue light still pulsed beneath the surface, the heartbeat of a world refusing to die. Sira collapsed to her knees, tears streaming down her face. She stayed behind. Ethan placed a hand on her shoulder. She made her choice. Sira looked up at him, voice trembling. "Do you think she found peace?" Ethan stared at the horizon, the first rays of light warming his face. Maybe not peace, but purpose. Behind them, the sound of movement came from the forest. Soft footsteps, uncertain breaths. When they turned, they saw them. The first revived Canary males, emerging from the shadows, their silver skin pale, their eyes full of confusion and wonder. Sierra gasped. They made it. Ethan smiled faintly, exhaustion in every breath. Looks like the world just got another chance. The wind carried the faint echo of Vera's voice, not in sorrow but pride. Protect them, both the old and the new. And as the rising sun bathed the land in golden light, the age of silence ended not with a scream, but with a whisper of forgiveness. The twin suns fell behind the broken mountains and darkness claimed the sky once more. But this night was different. The moon rose red, glowing like a living wound over the Canary world. Ethan watched from the ridge, the wind howling around him. Below, the ruins of the temple pulsed with faint blue light, the last heartbeat of Vara's sacrifice. The newly awakened males stood nearby, shivering under the alien night. Their silver skin gleamed softly, their eyes unsure, like children opening them for the first time. Sierra stood beside him, her face pale but determined. They remember nothing, she whispered. It's as if time erased their minds but left their hearts beating. Ethan looked at the horizon. Lights flickered there, red and cold. They're coming, aren't they? Sierra nodded grimly. The council. The last loyalists. They think awakening the males broke the sacred balance. They will purge everything that breathes male energy, human or Canary alike. Thunder rolled, though no clouds moved. The air itself trembled. Ethan checked his wrist console. It barely worked, but he'd managed to rebuild part of his ship's energy core. The device hummed with blue light. If they attack, this will create a shield for a short time. Maybe enough for us to escape. Sierra shook her head. We can't just run. If the council destroys these men now, everything Vara died for ends tonight. He looked at her, tired, covered in dust and ash, yet her eyes burned with life. Then we fight. By midnight, the hills were alive with movement. From the darkness, the council's army emerged. Hundreds of Canary soldiers in bone armor, their weapons glowing crimson under the blood moon. Above them floated ships shaped like glass serpents, their energy cannons aimed toward the ruins. At their front stood the counselor, her eyes glowing white with rage. Kill the defectors, she commanded. Cleanse the world of corruption. Ethan felt the ground shake beneath his boots. The men behind him trembled, confused, afraid. They had been alive only for hours, untrained, uncertain. He turned to them, raising his voice. Listen to me. You don't remember the past, but you're standing in your future. You are proof that this world can change. They looked at him, this lone human, smaller, weaker, but fearless. His voice broke through their fear. You're not weapons. You're the reason to stop fighting. Sierra placed her hand on his shoulder, her voice steady and clear. Canary or human, we fight not to destroy, but to protect what must never die again. The first shot came, a beam of red light that split the air. It struck the ruins behind them, exploding in a cloud of dust. Ethan raised the power core high. Blue light spread across the battlefield, a shimmering dome of energy that shielded them for a moment. The impact shook the ground, but the barrier held. The revived males looked at their glowing hands in awe. The same energy that flowed in Ethan's veins pulsed now within them. The connection was alive. Focus it, Ethan shouted. Like light through a mirror, aim it together. One by one, the men lifted their arms. Streams of blue energy rose into the air, intertwining into a single beam that met the sky. The red moonlight cracked. The heavens themselves seemed to react. The counselor screamed, Blasphemy! This world cannot hold such power. Her army advanced, weapons glowing. The ground erupted in chaos. Energy blasts and shockwaves rippled through the field. Sierra moved like lightning, weaving through attacks, her hands glowing as she redirected energy bolts into the ground. Ethan fought beside her with what little tech he had, using the blue core to amplify her shield. The men followed, instinct guiding them. They didn't fight to kill. They fought to protect. The light from the temple ruins spread wider, crawling across the earth like veins of hope. The balance Vara spoke of was returning, not through death but unity. But the counselor would not yield. She raised her spear and screamed a word that split the sky. A red beam shot downward, striking the ground near Ethan. The blast threw him across the field. Sierra ran to him. Ethan, get up! He coughed, blood on his lips, his hands trembling. I'm fine. Just give me the core. He pressed the glowing device into the ground. Blue waves pulsed outward, merging with the temple's veins of light. The entire land glowed in the color of rebirth. The red moon flickered, then shattered into dust. The council's power died instantly. Their ships fell silent, their weapons dimmed. One by one, the soldiers dropped their spears, dazed by the sudden stillness. Sira stood tall, her voice echoing through the valley. It's over. Vara's blood ended the curse, not with death but truth. The surviving soldiers hesitated, one, then knelt. The war was over before it truly began. Ethan fell to his knees, exhausted, the blue light fading from his body. Sira caught him, tears shining in her eyes. You did it. You stopped them, he smiled weakly. Not me, us. The newly revived males gathered around, silent but grateful. The glow of dawn crept over the mountains once again, this time not red, but gold. Above the horizon, the shattered moon's fragments scattered like stars. The Canary world, long cursed by its own fear, finally breathed again. Sira looked toward the rising light. What happens now? Ethan smiled faintly. Now, you start over. Together. And as the first rays touched the ruins of the old temple, they illuminated a single inscription carved into the stone. Words that had waited 105 years to be seen again. Balance is not born of power, but of choice. The sun rose over a world reborn. Soft gold light spilled across the shattered temple and the glowing rivers that once carried death. The sky shimmered with dust from the broken moon, now scattered like 1,000 tiny suns. Ethan stood at the edge of the valley, his clothes torn, his face streaked with soot. But for the first time since his crash, the air didn't feel heavy. It felt alive. He closed his eyes and listened, not to screams or chants, but to the sound of voices, laughter, conversations, the soft cries of newborns echoing through the wind. Behind him, the Canary settlement had begun to rise from the ruins. The surviving women worked beside the newly awakened men, rebuilding what their ancestors had destroyed. The old weapons were melted into tools, and the temple's stones were being carved into homes filled with light. Sira approached quietly, her silver hair reflecting the dawn. Her once bright eyes looked softer now, full of calm instead of anger. She held a small crystal sphere that pulsed with faint blue light. It's stable, she said with a small smile. The energy from your core fused with our life stream. The planet is healing itself. Ethan smiled back, though weariness weighed in his voice. Guess humanity's stubbornness finally did some good. Sira tilted her head, curious. Do all humans fight like you? With their hearts first and their minds later? He laughed softly. Only the ones stupid enough to care. For a while they just stood there watching the new city form. The air carried warmth and hope, something the Canary hadn't felt for more than a century. Sira's smile faded into thought. We've started recording our history again, not with fear this time, but truth. Vara's name will be the first written in the new archives. Ethan looked toward the horizon where the old temple had once stood tall. She earned it. She carried a whole world's guilt on her shoulders, and still chose hope. A soft voice interrupted them. She saved more than our world. Ethan turned. One of the revived Canary males stood behind them. His skin shimmered faintly blue, and his eyes held gentle wisdom despite his youth. She saved our souls. We were made to be erased, but now we live again. He bowed deeply. Thank you, human. Ethan shook his head. Don't thank me. Just promise me you'll never repeat what your people did. Don't build walls between each other again. The man nodded solemnly. We won't. The moment felt sacred, the end of one age, the beginning of another. But Ethan knew his time here was ending. His body was weak, the blue glow fading from his veins. The planet's energy that once flowed through him had given all it could, Sira noticed. You're leaving, he nodded. My ship's core is almost repaired. I'll head for orbit before my strength runs out. I don't belong here anymore, she looked down. You could stay. This world owes you more than we can give. Ethan smiled faintly. You don't owe me anything. You've already given me something humans forget too easily. Purpose. Sira's eyes glistened with unspoken words. Then, before you go, there's something you should see. She led him to a small garden near the settlement, a circle of glowing flowers blooming in the morning light. In the center stood a crystal pod smaller than the others. Inside was a sleeping infant, part human, part canary, her tiny hands glowing faint blue. Ethan's breath caught. Is that? Sierra nodded softly. Born last night. Her mother died during the battle, but she carries both of our bloodlines. She is the first of her kind. He stepped closer, looking at the peaceful child. The glow from her skin matched the fading light in his own. He smiled, whispering, "Then I guess I didn't crash here by accident." Sierra's voice was gentle. "We named her after Vara." Ethan touched the glass softly, his reflection shimmering beside the baby's. "Then may she never know fear. Only choice." He turned back toward the mountains where his repaired ship waited, battered but ready. Sierra walked beside him until they reached the clearing. The new canary waved farewell from the distance, their voices carried by the wind. At the ship's ramp, Sierra stopped him. "When the stars see you again, what will you tell them about us?" Ethan smiled faintly, his voice quiet but strong. "I'll tell them humanity found hope among the stars, and it looked a lot like forgiveness." The engines hummed. The ground trembled softly as the ship lifted off. Sierra shielded her eyes from the light, watching the blue flame rise into the dawn sky. As the ship disappeared beyond the clouds, the baby in the crystal pod stirred, her eyes opening for the first time. "One golden, one blue," Sierra whispered to the morning wind. "Balance returns, and above the reborn world, the first dawn of a new age began, not ruled by gods or fear, but by the courage of one lost human who reminded an alien race what it meant to be alive."